afternoon, everybody, and thank you for showing up today. We've got an exciting webinar today. Eric's come up with some real good information because we have this question asked a lot, don't we, Eric, about, well, how do I get started in this business of doing medical billing for doctors when I don't know anything about all those codes that are out there? So we're going to dive into that today.
Hey, Patrick, I know I mentioned earlier about this little book that you said is hot off the press. You got one of those handy that you want to show everybody?
I just happen to have a real one right here, hot off the press. This is going to be a great marketing tool, guys. We constantly come up with new marketing tools for our licensees. This one is that book that you saw earlier, 10 Critical Questions for Physicians in Private Practice. And then look at the subtitle here. And the single choice that can help your practice to prosper and grow. What do you think that single choice is that Dr. Vicki Rackner talks about in the book? It's outsourcing.
Yeah.
The doctors who decide to outsource their billings are the ones that are prospering and growing, because folks, here's what it boils down to. Doctors don't want to do it. They don't like doing it, but they have to do it to get their money. They just don't know that there's somebody like you that can help them get that money from the insurance companies and the government agencies, and a lot faster, a lot more of it, and just more efficiently.
Yeah, you bet. Hey, Patrick, let's tell everybody that in our handouts area, we've got a handouts area that's over on the GoToWebinar control panel. We've got all the slides that we have today over there for you to download. So if you take a moment, go on over there underneath the handouts, download that. There's a PDF there for you. So I know, Patrick, we've got a lot of information that we want to get through this afternoon. So let's just jump right on there about billing and coding experience. And, you know, people do ask, Patrick, so I think I'd like to get into this business, but again, I don't know codes. I don't know, you know, obviously what a diagnosis code versus what a procedure code is. And I thought what we would do in this today, that we would actually do a little education process, which is so unusual because normally this is stuff that we'd actually teach in our training workshop.
Yeah, we're going to kind of peek behind the curtain here, and you're going to see our system actually running the way it runs on an iPad, on the computer. And I like how you subtitle this, Eric, the difference between medical billing and medical coding. And there is a big difference there. Some people think you got to be a medical biller, certified medical biller, and a certified medical coder to do the billing for doctors, but you don't. Now, this is a great article, though, Eric, that you found that talks about healthcare administrative costs. I just thought we'd show this because, folks, look, it's going to tally nearly $500 billion this year. That means doctors are spending that kind of money on doing the billing and the administrative type stuff in their office, and they could eliminate a huge portion of that by outsourcing that to somebody like yourself.
You bet. Yeah, and folks, I think the one of the issues here is that a lot of people do ask, well, don't doctors already have a biller in their office that's doing this billing? Right. And that is true. They do. They may have somebody in there.
That's right.
But if we can show the doctor that it's actually maybe costing them double of what it would cost if they get it outsourced, and actually the increased revenue that actually happens when they outsource that, that's whenever we can bring those administrative costs down, get more cash flow into that doctor's office. So folks, don't be afraid. If you go to the doctor and you see maybe a medical biller in that office, don't shirk that aside to say, oh, this is not going to work for me. We're actually seeing doctors, even office managers going, there's got to be a better way of doing medical billing.
Sure, and the people that are doing the billing don't have to go get another job, because we teach the doctors how to reallocate those folks to do the things that help the doctors see more patients, or more efficiently see the patients that they're seeing. That's why you don't see a lot of people getting to see the doctor on the time that they got the appointment, because they're sitting there in the waiting room. There's not enough people back there to help the doctor get those people through. Hey, and by the way, Dr. Vicki Rackner in this book, she's basically telling exactly why it is that she decided to outsource her billing. And so This book is going to be a wonderful marketing tool. We'll tell you a little bit more about it as we get closer to releasing it for all of our licensees, but you'll be able to put your name and contact information here on the back and be associated with a doctor. That brings great credibility to you.
Yeah, speaking of Dr. Wagner, and I think we're going to be sharing with at the end of this webinar that you're actually interviewing Dr. Vicki Wagner next Wednesday, and we're going to show people how to get signed up for that webinar for next week. But she wrote her own book called The Myth of the Rich Doctor. And Patrick, I mean, these are some great quotes, and I think some of the same things that you and Dr. Vic Wagner will be talking about next week.
Yeah, imagine this. What she's saying here, folks, is that in private practice, physicians are losing somewhere around 30% of their income when they don't follow up on rejected insurance claims. Now, we're going to show you today why you can cut that way down to less than 2%. That's our rejection rate. And she says, look, this is in the book. This may be the fastest and easiest way to increase your cash flow. So she's telling doctors, from one doctor to other doctors, this is the way to increase your cash flow. And boy, that gets their attention. You can use this book in your marketing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So folks, what we're trying to show you and set this foundational understanding that we've got the information of how to market out to doctors, how to get doctors' attention, whether it's through books, whether it's through some of the things that we help engage with you. Folks, we're here to help you build your business. Because Patrick, before we go further, why don't you share a little bit about how ABS can win along with our licensees as we're helping those doctors win?
Well, it's simple, folks. We're going to be talking about some of the ancillary services that you can offer to the doctors through ABS. And we, on the back end, actually have agreements with those services that you'll offer to doctors with the people who provide those, our technology partners, we call them. And we get a few pennies off of all those transactions on the back end. This is why we can offer, Eric, free lifetime support at no extra cost. Because the more clients you have, the more services you offer, the more our company makes on what we call the back end. So we make money, of course, selling the license. Our license fee is about $27,000. And once you've invested that, where does the income come for our company? It's from those services that you'll see.
You bet. Now, one of the things we want to start off with, because we're going to talk with you about the difference between billing and coding, and then how what we set you up as a revenue cycle management company, and then actually certify you as a certified medical revenue manager. So as you can see in this diagram, that really there's nothing in there that says anything about coding. It has to do with claims preparation, claim submissions, claims management, and reporting. And so part of what's happening behind the scenes is this thing called coding, but we'll show you here a little bit how that's actually working with our services.
Yeah, folks, here's the short story. The story is that doctors are the ones that are responsible for the codes. Now, you've heard about certified medical coders. Yes, you could go to a school or even online and learn how to be a certified coder. It might take you a year or two. And then you memorized all these codes and you know how to use them. The fact is that doctors are the ones that provide that code for you through the paperwork that they're doing now, if they're using paper, or their electronic medical record system. Now, if they are stuck on a code and don't know it, the great thing is that there are certified medical coders associated with our company that can help you and the doctor figure out what is the best code to use, because they don't want to use the wrong code. They can get fined for that, can't they, Eric?
Right, you bet. You bet they can. Yeah. So let's talk real briefly the difference between a medical coder and a medical biller. First of all, as you can see here on the left, we've got two separate people here. We've got one lady over here who will turn what we know as the doctor's notes. And these are the notes that sometimes, folks, you've seen either a doctor type in their notes or actually hand write their notes, and then that's all they do. And then sometimes what they'll do, they'll take that information and turn it over to somebody that will read those notes and then find those codes and then match those codes to what the doctor's notes are saying about possibly you as a patient. The other person takes those codes that were done by a coder and then input it into a system like our system. And that's basically what you're going to be doing here as a medical biller with American Business Systems. But again, we're even going to take it a little bit further. Patrick, you want to share any more about this before we leave this screen here?
Yes, I wanted to say this, folks. Yes, you could go and learn how to be a certified medical coder. It would cost you, several $1,000s probably to get through all that. When you get through, you then might could go out and find a job working at a doctor's office. Large practices that hire a certified medical coder that sits in the office and does what the lady on the left there is doing. But the great news is that you don't have to do that with our system because all the codes are actually built into the system, and we'll show you that here once we get to some screenshots of the system itself.
You bet. So what we set you up as this certified medical revenue manager, where you may be managing a biller and maybe a coder. Patrick, you want to explain maybe a little bit how MIRMA came about and the certified medical revenue manager certification?
Yes, my son, Adam, is the president of the company. He actually formed this organization, co-founded it a few years back because we wanted an organization that doctors recognize as having the ability to certify people who are handling their money. You just don't walk into a doctor's office and say, hey, I'm a medical biller, can I do your billing, without having some certification. So as you can see, we issue this certificate at the end of our training workshop. And in 1 week's time, we've certified you. You'll know more about all this stuff, folks, than 99% of all the medical office managers and billers that are out there. It's that intense. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we leave this, there's at least one thing that's come in from Claude. You talked earlier, Patrick, about if the doctor has a biller in their office and then you as a ABS licensee takes over the billing, that maybe to reallocate that person and doing something else. And so Claude's going, how does ABS teach doctors to reallocate their staff from billing to revenue generating activities? This sounds like a great selling point.
Claude, I would love to tell you exactly how to do that, but then I'd have to kill you because that's pretty proprietary information. No, I'm just kidding. We do go into detail in that in the class. Remember, we have about 40 hours during this live training workshop here in Dallas where we do go into detail for that. And you're right, Claude, it is a great selling point for a doctor because some of them are worried about that. Maybe they even have a relative who's doing the billing and they don't want to let them go. Well, they don't have to because by turning it over to somebody like yourself, you're going to save them money, you're going to bring in more money, and they'll be able to pay those people to just help the doctor see the patients more efficiently. That's what they need is more help with the patients. That's where they make the money, right? Not doing the actual billing. Somebody has to do it, but it doesn't have to be inside their office for sure.
You bet. Folks, let me also say, why don't you join Claude and asking us some more questions. We've got the question box is open, so we're kind of monitoring that. So if there's something that you have on your mind, take the next few minutes here as we kind of go through the webinar this afternoon and obviously ask us some questions. We're going to be kind of monitoring that. So Patrick, let's just kind of talk about what is medical coding. Now, Patrick, you and your wife, Linda, actually did medical billing, and I think if I'm correct, Linda didn't know anything about medical coding when y'all got started.
Oh, no, she had no background whatsoever. We got started because a friend of ours actually owned a durable medical equipment company. You know, they rent out hospital beds and wheelchairs and that kind of thing, and he was billing Medicare. So we called Linda up one day and just out of the blue and said, Linda, I need some help in my office. Do you know how to do medical billing? She said, no, but I'm sure I could learn. He said, come on into my office. Literally in about 2 or 3 days, Eric, she had learned what she needed to do to process his medical claims. So folks, it's not rocket science, and she certainly didn't have any background in medical coding.
You bet. So let's talk really quickly about medical coding and what it is. And again, it's turning those doctor's notes, those words that doctor says, saying that Patrick Phillips has, whatever element that he has, and instead of the doctor putting the codes down there, he or she may give that to a coder that will take those words and turn them into numbers so that the insurance companies will know how to pay the physician. Now, the codes are split into 2 separate types of codes. There's the first code that's called the diagnosis codes. Now, remember, folks, I told you, Patrick and I are doing a little training as what we would teach you in our training workshop. So you're getting a little free education here from us and just learning what all this means. So, Patrick, we know that a diagnosis code is what's medically wrong with the patient. A cough, heart issues, broken ankle, ingrown toenails, whatever they may be.
Yeah.
Those are what's called diagnosis codes.
There's thousands of them, literally thousands. And folks, the reason they have turned those into numbers is because imagine a doctor could explain some ailments with all kinds of different words. It could be a whole paragraph in one case and maybe just a 2 or 3 sentences in another. Well, to make that simplified for the insurance companies and for Medicare, they just turned them into numbers. The diagnosis codes are called ICD codes, and that's the International Classification of Diseases. And then you've got all the procedure codes. That's what the doctor did to take care of the patient. Those are by the American Medical Association. So with those two sets of codes, the doctor can get paid.
You bet. And folks, you need both of these codes to actually do billing. And so Don's asking the question, are we the coder and the biller? And kind of sort of yes, because basically you would be a coder if you're using our coding system that will show you either through our EMR system or what's called CodeWrite. So you'll see when the doctor says, Mr. Phillips, do you do coding? The answer is
yes.
Yes,
but it doesn't have to be you that knows all about that, because we've been around for 25 years. We've got certified medical coders that can help with that through our CodeWrite service that we can offer to doctors. And our system, well, folks, it's a cloud-based system, and the codes are in there. And by the way, they're always up to date. Every time you log in, you're seeing the latest codes. And when those codes change, we change them in the system so that you always have the most accurate codes in there. It's just ingenious. I don't know who came up with this all, Eric, but whoever it was, he was a genius.
He was a genius. I wonder if he's on the webinar today. Hey, John, I'm also looking at your questions. You've got 10 questions that you wrote in one thing there. A lot of those questions, John, are questions that you need to kind of direct to your business coach, whoever you're dealing with. It's not that we don't want to answer them. We're just not going to have time to go into each one of those. We would take the rest of the time to go through those. But Patrick already answered one of those, which is number 3. How is the franchisor making money? And Patrick just shared with you, we make a little bit of money on the back end after each claim is being processed through the system. But the rest of your questions, they're great questions. Everything from, what are your upfront costs? What are other fees? John, get with your business coach, and that's what they're there for, to help you kind of
John, we really appreciate the fact that you've given a lot of thought to this, obviously. And so we're not denigrating the fact that we can't, in an hour's time, answer all of those questions. But we've done a lot of webinars, haven't we, Eric, that answers a lot of those questions too. So these questions, by the way, folks, that you're typing in are passed on to your business coach here at ABS. So whoever it is that you're working with, John, and sent the email to this webinar, they will get all of these questions and can address those to you, we promise.
You bet. Now, folks, one of the things that you might get from a doctor, if you're a medical revenue manager, that's the key here, you may end up getting what's called a paper super bill. Patrick, we still know that there are some doctors that are still using a super bill, which is basically the form used by providers to define these services provided. So
I went to the doctor last week. There it is. That's what's called the super bill for that particular doctor. All of them look different because they make them up for themselves based on the codes that they use the most. But they kind of look like this. We've enlarged it there at the bottom so you can see that one of the codes that in this one, for example, is the actual visit, and it's got a code 99244, I think it is, and that is the consultation.
You bet. You bet. Okay, so let's talk here about the facts. The facts are over 50% of denied claims are never resubmitted. Now, Patrick, you mentioned that earlier. I don't know if that sunk into a lot of people. But this is very important for people.
Remember,
to understand what's going on.
Of all the claims that are initially filed are rejected by the insurance companies. Why do you think that is? Why would an insurance company want to reject a claim? Because they want to keep the money as long as they can, at least. And they know that 50% of those claims are never resubmitted. Why is that? Because the doctor's office staff has a lot of things going on, and they just don't get back to them because, they had 30 claims yesterday they'd filed, and then today they got 30 more new claims. So they just don't get resubmitted, especially if they have several errors. And that's the problem, folks. Those people are paid the same, probably, on a salary basis or an hourly basis, and they don't care. They really don't care whether that claim gets paid or not. You do get care because you get a percentage of all the money that's collected for the doctor. So that's the difference between you and somebody working inside that office.
That's correct. And we've kind of listed a couple of those reasons that they're on this little sheet right there where you can see reasons. Sometimes there's just, they run out of time. I mean, a busy doctor's office, I mean,
it's chaotic.
It can be very chaotic. It could be a lack of skill. It could just be somebody going, the doctor going, have you ever done billing? Well, I think so. Well, I don't know. Let's try it. So you do it. And then there's a lack of knowledge on how sometimes to read code.
Eric, we hear from our licensees that about 9 out of 10 people that are working inside of a doctor's office, they learn to file those claims on the job from the person who was doing it. They taught them how to do it. So it's not like they have the skill that you think they do, folks, because most of those folks inside the doctor's office have never been through any kind of training. Again, you will know more than 99% of those people that are out there in our 1 week of training. It's a mini MBA in the medical revenue management business.
Yeah, and that kind of goes with David's question there. And David's asking, is there a difference between a certified medical revenue manager of what we have versus a certified medical revenue specialist? And there is, because again, a specialist may be able to go to school, they may have some credentials, but what they don't have are the solutions that an ABS licensee has as they get through with the, I mean, it's kind of like, yes, I've got the knowledge, but I have no tools. That's right. You're getting the tools here.
Right, and as you saw from that diagram, that circular diagram earlier that showed all the different aspects of medical revenue management, there are more things in there than just filing the claims. A lot has to do with what the doctor collects. And so you, as a manager, a revenue manager, you're going to be able to handle all of that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, folks, let's talk about the areas of risk. In other words, what is there in the doctor's office that has some risk in doing the billing themselves? You may think, well, gosh, doesn't he feel like he's risking it by outsourcing it to me? No. Believe me, if they are undercoding, then they're billing a level below the service performed. What does that mean? Well, it means less money for the doctor. Do you know that we can actually increase a doctor's revenue 30% or more by just coding what it should be coded? Now, here's what I mean by that. The government gives you some leeway. For a visit, for example, you could be coding for a visit that's 5 minutes long, and you actually saw the patient for 15 minutes. So doctors will sometimes undercode because they don't want to get audited by Medicare. But they're leaving money on the table. We can solve that problem because we can guarantee them that the codes that we have in our system are the correct codes, and it won't let the doctor pick a code that they shouldn't pick. Then there are doctors, of course, who are overcoding. They're billing for a level of service above the service that's provided, and they can get in trouble. You know, we found doctors, Eric, that are billing the same level code for every patient they see. Well, that's impossible because there's different things that you do for different patients. And that's where the doctor can get audited. Do you know they can get fined $10,000 for every one of those codes that the auditors find, wrong?
Yeah, and that's one of the services that, again, here we're gonna show you shortly. Not only the coding service that we have, but the auditing service that you can actually it inject with a doctor before you even start doing billing. That might be an incredible service because obviously that's important. But at the end of the day, Patrick, we got to tell everybody that the person responsible for every code that goes for that doctor is the doctor themselves.
Yeah, that's right. And that's something I mentioned earlier, but again, we go through this so fast, maybe this didn't sink in, folks, so we've got it right here on the screen. It's the doctor's responsibility to provide the medical codes to the billing company. The billing company, unless they are providing coding services for the doctor, which means you'd charge even more money, they are not responsible for those codes. So you can do either one. But if the doctor just doesn't know what they're doing, maybe they're brand new, then of course we have certified coders that can provide those codes to the doctor. And we'll teach the doctor when he's in our electronic medical record system how to find the correct codes really easily by just tapping a few buttons on his iPad.
You bet. And one of the things we're going to show you right now is how do you end up getting the code? I mean, if you walked into a doctor's office today and you were going to start doing some billing for the doctor and you weren't using our system, how would you get those codes? So we're going to kind of show you there's two ways. One is going to be the old-fashioned way, which is they can just fax them over to you. I know, Patrick, I think, tell me how you and Linda used to get those that information from the doctor.
Well, we would provide this oversized envelope to the office and tell them, just stick all your papers in that envelope and we'll come by once a week and pick them up. So we were kind of a week behind on the claims that they got in on Monday. We're doing those the next Monday. With a fax machine, of course, you've got it instantaneous, and they can provide that even electronically. Nowadays, I don't know if anybody even sells a real fax machine because it's all, electronic scanning.
Yeah, yep, you bet. Or you can get them with the EMRX, which is our electronic medical records. And Patrick, I think that you actually had your iPad running earlier with EMRX running back there.
Yeah, I got it right here. I wanted to just show that folks, the doctor will actually be using on their iPad, which, by the way, we teach you how you could provide this as part of a sign up for the doctor. This is the actual electronic medical record system. We call it EMRX. That's our branding for it. And the doctor is actually using this. Those codes are right there. When they start tapping those buttons that you see there in orange, they'll come up with the codes that they need for that particular visit.
You bet. And we're going to show you. Go ahead.
And since this is cloud-based, everything that the doctor's doing, it's through the internet. It's instantly sent through the cloud to you, the biller on the other end, who's actually seeing those codes. So that's what's amazing about the cloud, Eric. Some people can't wrap their brain around that, but it's just a server, basically. We have multiple servers actually all over the country. But the point is, once the doctor put that in, if you're on the system at home or in your office, you'll see what he's doing instantaneously. It's in real time.
You bet. You bet. It's absolutely in real time. So let's kind of walk through this. We're going to walk you through. Let's say that we're the doctor, and we're going to kind of do what a doctor would do and seeing a patient. So let's say that this guy over here, he comes walking in to the doctor's office, and finally he gets to the back and says, hey, doctor, I've got this big old cough here. And obviously the doctor does their examination on this individual, and they go, yeah, you've got a cough. And in that ICD-10, that diagnosis, as Patrick mentioned earlier, the International Coding of Diseases, the ICD-10, now that new code is what's considered an R05. Now we're going to show you how and where to place that inside of our system, because it's obviously a little bit easier. So again, the use of the diagnosis, again, is reporting about the patient's conditions, their signs, their symptoms, or whatever it might be. Patrick, we know that there may be several diagnosis codes with maybe one particular procedure with that doctor.
Well, sure, there could be several that are tied to what's wrong with the patient when they come in. You've gone to the doctor before probably and had several things, and all those are coded. They each one have a code. Believe me. There's no matter what is wrong with the human body, there's a code for it.
There is a code for it. And some of the funniest codes that I think you'd ever see. But let's say that the doctor does their examination, which is just this one visit, maybe 10 or 15-minute visit. And then the doctor says, well, you know what, John, we probably need to give you a shot. So there's an injection. That's another procedure. So the doctor would show those with, oops, I clicked that a little bit too fast there. You can see there that the doctor would have those codes, a 99213, which is what the doctor did. It saw that patient for a specific time. That's the level of visit, what they do. And then they have what's called a procedure code. That would be like the injection. So, Patrick, this is what would be given to like one of our ABS licensees from the doctor, just like this, on that super bill, or however it comes, maybe it even comes in electronically.
Yeah. And so again, we're just showing two examples here, but there could be several things that the doctor did. Maybe he ran a diagnostic test of some kind. Maybe he did a thorough examination. All of those have codes, and the doctor gets paid based on the time that he spends with the patient. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so again, folks, what we're doing is just showing you again, now we've got these codes here. Again, what the diagnosis code is, what's wrong with the patient. And we've got that here on the left-hand side. And then we've got what the doctor did for the patient, and that would be the procedure codes. And folks, I think at this point, everybody on our webinar could probably begin billing for just about any doctor, because think about it, if you're given this information, what your responsibility is make sure it goes in the system, and then you're managing the revenue, which means you're managing when that claim goes out, make sure that everything gets done, and then whenever it gets paid, you're accounting for it back into our system. So I figured better, Patrick, let's just kind of take a look at that and see what it's going to look like. Now, folks, this is a screenshot of iClaim, and we're going to show you just real briefly how we can take those codes and show those to you. And again, if we've got some time, and Patrick, you want to go there, we can probably look at it live. But here we're going to go to billing. We're going to go over to where it says enter charges, and we're going to enter professional claims charges. And that's going to come up with this piece of the software called the CMS 1500 charge entry form. And if we were looking at this on a regular live account, we would just scroll up to the next section here, and this is where we would put in that R05, and it'll automatically come up there with the description, which is the cost. And as we would scroll up a little bit more, if we were looking at this on an iPad or our computer or whatever else, here's where we're going to put in the other information, that 99213 and then that 95115. Again, those codes came from us, from the doctor, and then in the system, it's going to describe it here and then automatically put the fee schedule over there, so you don't even have to guess on how much to charge, because that's also set within inside the system. We do a few more little things down there, and then click on this button right down there where it says create the claim, and poof, you've actually created a claim. Patrick, that's about the process, and if we were doing this in real time, that's about how long it takes to actually process a medical claim.
That's right. We have licensees tell us that they've timed their people who are doing the billing for them there. Maybe they've hired some people or themselves, and that it runs around 2 to 3 minutes per claim. That's all. It's not that difficult. Now, if it's a brand new patient, of course, that's a whole other thing. Some of the data about the patient and their insurance would have to be put into the system. But once it's in there, of course, it's there for their next visit. That can even be done by the office themselves when they're setting up the appointment with the patient. We have live real-time checking as to whether or not they're qualified to for the insurance.
That's right. Yep. Patrick, if you've got time, I just thought I'd show this what it looks like in real time. I'm logged right on into the EMRX right now, folks, and so if we were going to go to let's say this one right here, Isabella Stevens, we would go directly over into there and then start letting the system build its claims right through here and creating the actual diagnosis codes. As you can see right up underneath here, it would show the ICD-10 codes and go straight to whatever needs to happen right over here. So if we're ear, nose, and throat, and we're diving into that, and let's say that there was a sore throat through here, or let's get into the pharynx area, there's the inflammation, it was acute and bacterial. You can see that these codes are populating directly in here. Now, again, this is what the doctor's doing, and you as a biller will retrieve this information directly through the system. And Patrick, I mean, it's doing the coding actually for the doctor as the doctor's going through this.
Yeah, I know, it's ingenious. And doctors, when they first see this demonstrated to them, folks, which we'll talk about here a little later, we do demos for your doctors. They're speechless. They're blown away. They did not know this technology was available to do this. And you'll notice it even has the ICD-9 codes, which were codes that were in effect before the ICD-10 a couple of years ago. And some doctors still want to refer back to some of those codes, so it's all built in here as well. But remember, they're doing this not on a computer like we're looking at right here on Eric's computer there, but on the iPad. That's why those buttons that you see are looking like they're oversized. They're made for adult fingers to be able to push those buttons and go where they need to go on that system. The doctors, and think about the difference, Eric. Have you ever been to a doctor where they they have to turn around and work on a computer or a
Yeah.
laptop even. Whereas with an
Yeah.
iPad, they can stand right in front of the patient like I'm doing here, tap those buttons and continue talking to the patient, and they've got everything there live going straight into the system, directly into the cloud.
Yep, absolutely. Directly, and I know we don't have time today, but we could show you exactly how the doctor could talk into their iPad and let it dictate their notes right directly into there. It really is.
That's a
Beautiful
question
situation.
that's on the board here. Don was asking, are we interpreting the doctor's handwriting or typing to choose a code, or is the doctor's office choosing the code and we do the billing? They're doing the billing, they're doing the choosing of the code, and as you saw, the doctor themselves, if they're using our EMRX system, they're choosing the code right there as they see the patient. It's right in front of them, and it even gives them a selection of some of the codes that are available for that particular diagnosis there.
Yep.
So, hey, Eric, I know you've got a lot of material to cover here, but we got about 15 minutes. I'd like to cover some more of these questions real fast, if that's okay.
Yeah, go right ahead. No, go right ahead.
Gloth, I hope I'm saying your name right there. Gloth says, what if I have experience and have worked as a medical coder? How does this help me to make more money? Well, what helps you is that you can say that you have had coding training. That's bound to help them as you're going out and marketing your services to the doctors. Again, it never hurts to have any experience in anything, right? If you were selling insurance,
Right.
It'd be good to say that you've been through some insurance training as well. So no, it definitely can help. You'll get probably clients even faster. Tahir says, what percentage do ABS franchise licensees holders get from the medical billing? Why don't you address that, Eric? How do they get paid?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, here here you're going to become a licensee and not a franchisee. So you're not getting anything particularly from American Business Systems. You're going to have a contract directly with the doctor. Your percentage will be what you are able to contract with the doctor, and then that money actually becomes your money. So there's no changing of money between ABS to you or to us. That goes directly to you. And then, but on average, you will be charging a percentage of what you help collect for that doctor's office, anywhere from 5, 6, 7, could be up to 9% of what you help that doctor collect. So, but 6, 7% is usually sort of the going rate right now for the percentage of what you would actually be making on. Let's say that you were charging 6% of $50,000, which is pretty normal and pretty the middle of the road you might say out there with most doctors. See, that would generate about $3,000 a month for you on a regular basis. So that's what you would be actually making there. So hopefully that helps answer your question there.
That kind of ties in with Tahir's question a little bit further down. I just glanced down there. How does ABS billing services will be cheaper to a doctor, whatever he's already paying for his billing services? We didn't go into this at all in this webinar, but folks, we teach you to do a practice analysis. And by getting some information from the office manager, you will know what their costs are. And when you do your proposal, you can make sure that you're at the right fee. But in general, folks, you sometimes come in at half the cost of what the doctor's paying his own staff and his software updates and IT support and so forth.
You bet. David's asking a question, and I don't know if you answered this one already. After receiving a certified medical revenue certification, would a licensee benefit from additional certifications? And David, yeah, if you've got more than that certification, you go for it. I mean, there's nothing holding you back. Once you become a medical biller, remember, you're an independent medical biller, so do all that you can to grab as many things as you can out there.
Hey, and David, by the way, came to our office yesterday. I just happened to be there at the time. He dropped in, just was over in our area near our offices, and he dropped in and said hi. And so, hello, David. Thanks for getting on the webinar today. He says he's watched a lot of these, so he's here live today. I've probably seen your name before, David, and just didn't recognize it, but I do today.
Yep, there you go. And one more, I figure we're getting pretty good on the questions here, and we can get back into the slides. Don's asking, do the payments go directly to the doctor, or is it a pass-through our account through to the doctor? David, so Don, when you're doing the billing for the doctor is the one that's getting the money directly, and then you're going to invoice through the what you're going to invoice what you have helped that doctor collect. So it's more than just inputting that claim. You're managing that claim. You're posting that money for the doctor, because you're going to get the information to know how much that doctor is
Yeah, by the way, Don,
there.
we've heard from licensees that there are billing companies out there who have the money sent to their account and then they somehow forward that to the doctor. We don't teach you to do that. We don't think that's the best way to do that, because there has been some theft by billing companies who've done that. In fact, you can set it up so that the money goes directly to the doctor's bank account. But remember, it's
Right.
all inside our system, and you can give the doctor access, a login to the system, so they can see the exact status of their claims and their money. It's great.
There you go. Okay, Alex is asking, what is the percentage of payment to that claim? I think we said that earlier. It's about 6-7%. Let's step back into the slides here, Patrick. We can kind of get some more of these. But folks, we have been talking all afternoon about codes. One of the services that you get here, one of the 9 services that you are specifically getting here at ABS is CodeWrite. And this is when a doctor says, does your billing company do coding? The answer is yes. This is how this is all working right here.
Right. These are certified.
You want to share a little bit about that? Yep.
Yeah, these are certified medical coders who are actually connected to our company, and that through this service, you sign up the doctor to have the codes reviewed by this company. And then this company will actually provide reports to the doctor showing them exactly what they're coding. If they're overcoding, if they're undercoding, they'll tell them everything they need to know. And if the doctor wants specifically some codes for services that he's providing that he doesn't know how to come up with, they can provide that as well. So you learn how to scan all the doctor's medical charts directly into their system, and those people behind the scenes are actually looking at those and coming up with those reports for the doctor, and then they'll go over those with the doctor for you. Yeah, it's a great service, and you can say when doctors ask you if you do coding, yes.
You bet. Yeah. So folks, again, what you're getting here as the entire business package here at ABS is coding. We're going to show you a few more through here. You're going to get what's called Audit Guard. I think we made mention of this a little bit earlier, but Audit Guard will allow you to do a spot check, so to say, with what's going on with that doctor, sometimes even before you get started. Patrick, this could be a great start for someone who's about to take over a doctor's billing, just to kind of see if the doctors are actually coding correctly in the first place, correct any errors before you as a licensee takes over that doctor's billing, so you'll know what to help avoid any further or future coding mistakes that the doctor could be doing. Because remember, you're going to be doing these inputting the codes, and what you want to do is help that doctor understand everything that they can do and help them stop maybe even coding mistakes that they may be doing from the past.
Yes, Eric, while you're showing the next slide there of the actual reports that the doctor gets from this service here, let me just say this, folks. You could actually walk into a doctor's office and say, can you tell me who is your, your manager here that's in charge of any audits that might come up? And they'll look around and go, well, I don't know, because they don't have anybody specifically for that. But when it does, they could be fined thousands of dollars. So this is a great door opener to get inside a doctor's office.
You bet.
There's a question here from Quincy that is a good one. It says, what value do we as licensees bring? Why can't they just call ABS and get set up on an automated system? Well, first of all, Quincy, our company doesn't do any medical billing. Now, we used to. When my wife and I started back 25 years ago, we did, but we got out of the business of actually doing the billing and started supporting the people who we have, as licensees out there doing the billing. So all we are is a training and support company at this point.
Yep, absolutely. Now, Patrick, you mentioned earlier that you could walk in any doctor's office and ask them who's in charge of their auditing. But what about walking to a doctor's office and saying, hey, who is your compliancy officer?
Yes. Now, everybody's heard of HIPAA. That's the thing that protects the privacy of all the patients, right? You always sign some sign of release when you go to a doctor. Folks, there are HIPAA violations in every doctor's office. I guarantee you, Eric, I was at a doctor's office when I went into a certain room, they were going to show me how to do an injection to myself. I looked up on this screen that was kind of on a monitor thing that floated in the air, and there was the chart for the previous patient right there for me to
My goodness.
take a picture of if I wanted to, right? That's a huge violation. And we can show the doctor how to protect against that, because those auditors from Medicare can pop in on a doctor at any time. And you've probably seen papers just laying around for other patients. That's a violation.
You bet. Boy, you talk about papers lying around. One way to help with that HIPAA issue is to get all of that paper, because remember, if you were to go into any doctor's office today and you get them set up on EMRX, which is an electronic medical records platform, that doesn't do away with all of their paper that they have in their office already. They got to do something with it. And you can see here, a lot of those documents have to be a minimum saved for 7 years. So instead of having all that stuff laid around, get it up to the cloud. We've got a great service for that called iDocs now.
Yeah, this is not Google Docs. This is not Dropbox. This is not some other service that just stores files for you, folks. This is a true document management system. It actually, once that document is scanned into the system, it then can be searched. That's right. Every word in every document can be searched by the doctor. And so they can find things. 3 or 4 people at one time can be looking at it. They don't have to worry about losing that document or breaking any rules of HIPAA.
Yeah,
hey, Eric,
absolutely.
A few more questions
Yes,
here.
sir.
Can I get to a couple of those?
Yeah.
Ravi
Yeah, you bet. Let's do
asked
it.
a question similar to what somebody else asked. Why aren't the ABS systems directly sold to doctors and then train their assistants for a license fee? Why train middle folks like me? That's a great question. I've never heard it put that way.
That's a good
But
question.
Ravi, remember, we could contact every doctor's office in the whole United States if we wanted to. That's not the business that we're in. We're in the business of training people like yourself, because to be honest with you, doctors want to deal with somebody local. Yeah, they do not want to deal with people overseas. They don't even want to deal with somebody, a stranger, just calling them up on the phone and say, hey, can we do your billing? They want to deal with somebody local. And you're that person, because if something goes wrong, guess what? They can call you up and say, get over here to our office and let's solve this problem. And so that's why that, we're not selling directly to doctors.
You bet. Don, I think we asked this, hopefully we answered this question earlier, but if not, let's answer it again. You're asking the question, is it a percent of what's billed, or what's being billed, or what is collected? You're actually getting a percentage on what's been collected, because there is what's called the billed amount, and then what's the reimbursed amount. And you're going to get a percentage of what's the reimbursed amount. And
Don, you also asked about credit card processing services. Yes. We have the ability for you to offer to the doctor credit card merchant services, so you can process the credit cards if they don't already have one. And we can match any other company that's out there on that rate, by the way, too. Yep, you bet. Robbie's asking the question, what percentage does ABS make off of each claim? It's pennies, because remember, we're not collecting anything from you. Ours is coming from our service providers that are there. Since we're bringing business, we get a little piece of the action on the back end. So it's so small, but that's why we like to have a lot of volume. That's why we like to have more licensees and have to get going and support you on that. So again, to emphasize that it doesn't come from you, it's coming from our technology partners that we've partnered with behind the scenes. You wouldn't even know about it unless we told you about it. But it's enough to where we could actually run our entire business right now on the back end income and never sell another license. That's how we make our money as a company. Yep, there you go. Claude is asking, is CodeWrite an ongoing subscription service, or do some docs use it temporarily? As needed. That's what we like to say. The reason we have that there is so that, Claude, whenever a doctor says, hey, do you do this? You want to always answer yes. That's why we have that there. Gloth says, what if the doctor is not using this system, or this system is what is being sold? Not sure I can wrap my brain around that, but if they're not using our system, folks, by the way, they don't have to switch to our system. You can do the billing for a doctor without them switching to our system. Now, what really happens in real life is those doctors, once you started doing the billing, you can approach them and say, by the way, here's some things that our system does. So once you're in the door, so to speak, past the glass, you know, out front.
Yep.
You're then on the inside as a part of their team collecting things for the doctor, and you can show them your system. And a lot of doctors will down the line switch over to our system as well.
You bet. Patrick, I know that we're getting close to the top of the hour, and let's get through the last few little slides here, folks. If you want to see this in action, call us. We're going to set up a live demo. We can do that for you. A lot of the questions you're asking can be answered on a live demo, but before that you jump off, why don't you talk to everybody about the 100% money back guarantee, and then we'll get back to these questions.
Yeah, folks, I didn't know how else to help people wrap their brain around what we do. And so at one point I said, folks, my staff, I said, we're going to just offer 100% money back guarantee. And they said, what? I said, look, if we have what we say we do, let's let them sit through the training workshop to the very end, get every piece of information that we share during that week. And if for any reason they don't think this is the right business for them, why would we want to keep their money? We give them their money back and move them on and bless them and let them go and find something else. And folks, we've done that a handful of times in the 25 years we've been in business. But the point is, we're pretty sure about what we have. And you will see that actually about midway through the class, you'll go, oh, I get it now. And so we don't have refund requests now.
Absolutely.